Hey guys, well I'm still enrolling some hay here. They're still eating it because this is kind of just a pasture we collecting a bunch of our nannies and ewes in as we're going through and working some different pastures and swapping some stuff around. Um, so yeah, this is ate down pretty good, but it won't get grazed again until probably late summer. And I'll talk to you about feeding hay, and really you just need to keep track of stuff. We keep track of every bale that's fed in every pasture. Yeah, and how many animals are there. So this is a sheet. Let me show you this. It's the sheet I make. Every pickup has one, and it just has the pastures across the top, the days, the month on the side, and if we feed one bale we put a 1, if we feed 2 we put a 2. It's pretty simple. So this is a month's worth. This is March, and then I'll take this sheet at the end of the month, and I got a spreadsheet. Maybe I can take you inside and show that to you. And so I'll put down what pastures got fed what and how many animals were there. And that way I can get a per head cost on my hay, on any feed that's taken out there. I can got my pasture rent. If we pay rent on there, I can figure all that on a per head cost. Got my dog food on there. Now I don't keep track. Every bag of dog food goes out, but I know how much we spend on dog food for the year. I just divide that by the number of dogs and how many dogs is in that pasture, and I can get a pretty good idea of what they ate that way. I mean, it's if we're $50 or $100 a pasture off for the year, which we're probably not, but that would it's not going to be a big deal. And you put your price on your hay. So our livestock enterprise buys the hay from our farming enterprise. See, so we just put a price on it, and then that's what I use for the nannies have to pay for. The nannies are the ewes. Any hay they eat, they gotta pay the way. And so you just have to keep track of that stuff. Like I said, it may be cheaper for you to have more animals and feed hay, but how will you know if you don't keep track? See? So I'll show you the spreadsheet there. And you won't want a copy of mine because you'll have different scenarios, different things every year. I just have to make a new one because it's just the way it is. But it'll give you an idea of how the best way to keep track. You may have a better way. Be glad to hear about it. Okay guys, so I take that sheet that logs all the hay that's fed and any other feed we might be feeding, and by pastures, and I put it into this spreadsheet. Now I'll show you this. This is last year's spreadsheet because it's finished, and of course I'm still working on this year's. So this is November, December, January, on through April of 23. So let's look at this pasture, for instance. There was 420 ewes there, and if that changes just a little bit throughout the year, it's not a big deal, or throughout this feeding period, it usually doesn't change much. So here's the hay we fed through there. So you see in March we fed 20 and a half bales, February 8, January 13, so on. So a total of 44 bales fed to those 420 ewes. And we fed some Milo there, must have had some Milo. And so we fed 3,300 pounds of Milo. And here I got a note, that was 110 buckets at 30 pounds, so 3,300 pounds. So here's my cost. You can see here's $39.60 for the 44 bales of hay. And here's the cost of the Milo. So see down here I got the hay at $90 a ton. Milo at 110, and of course these prices change. You'll have to change them every year or whatever your time frame is. So that comes out to a cost per head based on the 420 head I got up here. For the hay and the Milo, total $4,323 is $10.29 a head. Now, I stuck in the rent that we pay on all the pastures that those sheep run on through the whole year. See? And that come out to $5,800, and so that's $1,381 a head just for the pasture rent. And then the dog food here was $2 based on the price of dog food. And I just divide that out for how many head we got for the whole year, how much dog food we fed. I don't keep track every pasture. So total cost per head is $26.39 for the whole year. Not just the feeding period, but that takes into account the rent we pay and the feed, the Milo, the hay. So see here we're at $10.29 for just the winter feed. So $26.39. Now if we get a 1.3 lamb crop, then that means it's cost $20.30 per lamb to feed their moms, because the lambs have to pay for all the feed the moms eat all year. They have to pay the pasture rent. They have to pay all your overheads. Overheads aren't on here, but that's just, if you change this, well, let's just say you had a 1.1 lamb crop, and that bumps that up almost $4. See, if you could have a 1.5 lamb crop, well, then it's clear down here at $17.50. So it makes a big difference how many lambs you can get per ewe, spreading that feed cost over. And here's where I simply have all my cost of the hay and everything we fed. We didn't feed those any tubs, and so let's go up and look at an example of some goats. Let me see. Here's a goat pasture. It's theirs. Now we had 275 goats there most of the feeding period, most of the year. Like I said, that might vary a little bit once in a while. Just take an average. And this is a pasture, I don't know, 7 miles from the house probably. There's the hay we fed. Didn't feed any in April last year. So 49 bales for 275 ewes. So they ate more hay per nanny, probably because we've got these on somebody else's property. They've got the cows. We weren't able to stockpile feed like we can on places we own, because he's stockpiling for his cows and going to use that for cow feed. So we're going to end up feeding more hay on those places. Just you always will. Here we fed them 13 tubs, it looks like, in March of that year. Okay, so here's our cost. Total cost for the hay is $4,410. So, and maybe I said that price per bale at $90. That's not price per ton. That's price per bale. Okay. So here's the cost per head was $16. Add on the tubs that were fed, the 13 tubs that cost us almost $1,500, and that's $21 a head. There's no rent on that place. Here's the dog food based on 4 dogs being over there. And so the total cost per head for the nannies there is $24.92, almost $25. Again, if you got the 1.5 kid crop, that's 16. Let's say, I mean, sometimes you don't do that good. Let's just say you did a 80% kid crop. You know, $31.15. That's still pretty good. Now you understand you got a lot of overheads. You got pickups and you got labor, and you better charge yourself for labor, because someday if you want to do this full time, you want to be paying yourself. You need to know your numbers and need to plug that in here so you already know how much that's costing you, and if your operation can sustain that. So that's how it works out, like on a place where we don't pay rent. Let's see, look at a different one here. Here's, let's see. Here's another place we don't pay rent. Under this at Clayton's, 39 nannies. We fed him 11 bales. See, his cows didn't leave us any feed there. Okay, so that cost per head was higher. So it was $37.69 per nanny that was over there. Now, if we had a 0.8 kid crop, that's $47. See, so this particular place we fed more hay, more pounds of hay per head of animal that was over there. And so you just have to take that into consideration. So sometimes when you're getting free pasture, it's not always free. See, so you got to look into that. But that's how you got to run your numbers. You got to know, can you afford to feed hay? It just depends, what your pasture rent is, how much you're paying for your pasture. Because you can see some places the rent's zero. Depending on how much hay you feed, it may still cost you more than a place that you pay rent, or it may cost you less. You just have to figure it out. It just varies so much. There's no just rule of thumb there. So keep your numbers. So here's what I did, and let you into our little secrets here. Here's our nanny herd. We averaged, it looked like total feed cost per nanny is $12 over all of them. Total pasture rent was $3.79. Some of them we pay rent. Here at home we pay ourselves rent. Total yearly feed cost for our nannies looks like $16. Here's our ewes. They were a little bit more. Just depends on the situation. It depends on how much your pasture rents are, how many animals you have there, how good a feed you have you can stockpile. So, yeah, I just encourage you, set up something. Don't ask for a copy of this because it won't work for you. You have to put your own places in, and you can set up your own feed cost. I mean, it's not that hard to make a spreadsheet. And if you don't know how, you really need to learn how to do that. There's all kinds of YouTube things that'll help you make a spreadsheet. Like I said, this one works for me, but every year, I kind of have to make another one because situation changes, and so all our numbers will change too. But just make sure you do your numbers so you know where you're at, know what you're doing. Everybody I know said, "Well, I wish I could quit my town job." Well, you won't ever know unless you keep your numbers. You know what your costs are. You know what it costs you to live. And can you make that up, or how many head will that take you? It's just have to do the math. It's not that hard. So hey, I hope this helps somebody. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you might want to subscribe or at least hit the like button. I don't know exactly what that does, but that's what all the other YouTubers tell you to do. So maybe it's something to it. So anyway. Hey, have a good day.